post-fertilization changes. Okay, please get your notes ready and continue with your note taking. Right now, so this table shows you the post-fertilization changes. Okay, now so if you look at the left column, the flower parts, these various parts of the flowers were formed. Okay, the various structures after fertilization. All right, now so if you look from the left, starting from the first one, the ovule, after fertilization it becomes seed, the zygote becomes embryo. Okay, now take note of this embryo. Embryo consists of three parts. The radicle is the future roots, plumule is the future shoot, and then the cotyledons, which is the food reserved. Alright, now the third structure is the endosperm nucleus. The endosperm nucleus will form the endosperm, and endosperm is actually the food storage organ. Alright, it is present in some seeds. The food store is absorbed by the embryo, okay, usually. Alright, now so they form as a food reserved for the seeds. And then the fourth structure is the ovule stalk. Ovule stalk is the seed stalk. The ovary, the whole ovary will form the fruits itself. The ovary wall is a fruit wall, or sometimes another bigger terms is called pericarp. Stigma and style of the flower, they were generally withered, or in some cases they modified to help in the fruit dispersal. The stamen, which is a male reproductive organ, stamen generally they wither and fall off, okay, after they are accomplished their mission. Okay, now and then the petals similarly, once they accomplished their role, they will wither and fall off. The sepals play a very important part in protecting the flower bud at the beginning, okay, when the flower just formed. But after post-fertilization, it may persist or modify to help fruits in their dispersal. Now let us take a look at the seeds. Okay, the seeds, the endosperm is stored food tissues. Okay, and this will actually provide food for the embryo growth. And the mature ovule becomes the seed, and then the ovary becomes the fruit. Okay, now so most of the things you see from flowers to the fruits, okay, is mainly it's a development of the ovary. All right, now so the ovary form the fruits. Okay, now what is shown here, this is a dicot seed. It is a bean seed. Now so take note, okay, the outermost coat, which you can see here. Okay, let me highlight, show you here. Okay, now so this is the testa. Testa is a seed coat, so this is the outermost layer, the brown layer. Now the next one is the hilum. Hilum is the remains. Okay, this is a part that attach to the fruits. Okay, now so next the micropyle is a small opening. This opening will allows water, okay, to diffuse into the seeds when the condition is correct for seed germination. Okay, now so water, oxygen, and warmth or temperature is correct. Okay, now so these are the three factors: water, oxygen, and temperature. Okay, easily remember by the acronym WOW. Okay, WOW. Okay, water, oxygen, warmth. Warmth, that means temperature is correct, the seeds will germinate. Okay, now take note of another word is this one. This is the embryo. The embryo is made up of three things, three key parts, which is the plumule, the cotyledons, and the radicle. Okay, now the other two, the epicotyl and hypocotyl, these two are actually the growing, the parts, the in between, okay, the leaves and the, okay, and are just the intermediates, okay, between the structures. Now, fruit and seed development. On the left is the flower. Okay, now so after fertilization, you will see that the fruits are formed. Okay, now so these are the various parts of the flower, the ovules, the ovary, integument, and zygote. They will form the respective structures of the fruits. Okay, now so of course you know that the ovules will form the seed and the ovary will form the fleshy fruits. The integument, okay, now take note of this integument. The integument will give rise to the seed coat. Okay, so I hope you remember that the integument form the seed coat. And then the zygote, okay, the zygote which is diploid, they will give rise to the embryo. Okay, now which is inside the fruits, you can see that structure, that is the how the embryo looks like. They make up of the plumule, and then they also have the radicle. Okay, and then of course the cotyledons. Okay, now one more structures that I think of interest is the triploid endosperm cells. Okay, now this will form the endosperm. Okay, and this endosperm is packed with nutrients. Okay, now so they contain mainly food reserve for the seeds. All right, now so in summary, these are the two structures that you must take note. Take note of the zygote. Zygote is diploid. Okay, now so another one is the triploid endosperm. Okay, so it is formed, if you remember, it is from the polar nuclei, okay, which fuse with the sperm cells to give rise to the triploid state. All right, now next, this is the fruit and seed development. Okay, now so this show you the whole cycle, the plant life cycle from the mature plant, okay, and then the flowers. Okay, and after pollination and fertilization, the seeds are formed. The environment is correct, the seeds will germinate and then to form the seedlings. These seedlings eventually grow into mature plants again. All right, now so this is the life cycle. Now next, the fruits. Fruits encourage seed dispersal. They entice animal to eat them and then disperse the seeds. Ovaries surrounding the seeds mature into a fruit. So actually the fruit is a form of the rewards for the dispersing animals usually. Okay, now the seeds form from ovules. Okay, now so there are various adaptation for seed and fruit dispersal. So it could be either through the means of animals, it could be by wind, it could be by water, or even self-explosive action or explosive mechanism within the fruits itself. Now next, this is on the left, they show you the infructicans of dandelion. Okay, now so actually originally this bundle is a flower, and after post-fertilization, the various parts has been formed, and eventually you get this infructiscence of the dandelion. Okay, now so once the wind blow, you will realize that the various seeds will get dispersed, okay, according to the directions of the wind. Okay, now on the right, the seed dispersal, which is a scattering of the seeds. Okay, now so you can see there are various ways. Starting from the left, okay, upper left is the animal dispersal. So mainly the animals will be rewarded with fleshy fruits if they if they disperse the seeds. And at the bottom of this tomato, if you look at it, it is dry. The seeds usually have hooks, and these hooks actually get a right, okay, through the animals. Now on the right, upper right, is the wind dispersing fruits and seeds. So you can see how they modify, and mainly the structures were optimized, okay, by getting a right from the wind, okay, and then the wind will help to disperse these particular seeds. And on the lower right is the explosive mechanism. Okay, now so the expulsion, okay, they expel the seeds as far away from the parental plant as possible. And the lower left is by water dispersal, which means generally the seeds and fruits are able to float on water. Okay, and then the water will bring them, okay, according to the sea, according to the wave, okay, or any the actions, okay, coming from the sea. Now next, let us look at Fourier diagram and Fourier formula. Okay, now down here, this is the Fourier diagram. Okay, now so this is an example of the Fourier diagram. The Fourier diagram have their own symbols, okay, which representing or the standard way to represent the sepals, petals, stamen, or the ovary. Okay, now in reality, it's quite close to how the flower, the shape and patterns of the flower structure. Okay, now so this is one example of the Fourier diagram. Okay, on the lower section, now this is the Fourier formula. Okay, now actually you can get a lot of information from both the Fourier diagram and the Fourier formula. Now, for example, in this Fourier formula, you can see all these BR, BRL, all these are brachios, the bracts. Okay, now so that means the number of it. Now, these symbols here with a cross circle, with a cross, that means they tell you that this flower is symmetrical. Okay, now so you can cut at any plane and it is symmetrical. Okay, or it could be actually bisymmetrical for some flowers. Okay, or maybe even irregular for certain flowers. Okay, now the next symbols here, you can see a female sign here. Now, so actually you can this formula can tell you whether it is a unisexual flower or bisexual flower. Now, next you can see a K. K stands for calyx. Calyx actually it is a sound. Actually, calyx is spelled as CALYX. Okay, but because of the sound K, K. So K is used to represent the calyx. That means the number of sepals present. So if you see the 5 here, that means 5 sepals are present. Now, C stands for corolla. Corolla, that means is the number of petals. Okay, now another 5 here, so that means 5 petals is found in these flowers. A stands for androsium, that means the male reproductive organ. So how many are there? So down here it is like infinity. So there are multiple or many androsium, many stamens, okay, within this flower. By the way, this flower is a hibiscus flower, so the androsium are multiple, there are a lot. Okay, so that's why it is written as infinity here. Okay, now the G stands for gynosium. Gynosium, that means it is the couple or pistil. So these are female reproductive organs. Okay, now and you can see another 5 here. Okay, now yeah, so basically these are the information that you can collect from the Fourier formula. Okay, Fourier diagram, you can see the arrangement and then the visual spatial arrangement of each of these parts, okay, relative to the whole structure. All right, now okay, that's it. How to construct a Fourier diagram. Okay, now let us take a look at this example, this particular example. Just imagine that you are looking at the flower from the top view and you section it through the ovary, okay, along the line of the ovary. And of course, you can see that number one is actually the stem. So it is represented as the circle there. And then number 2 is actually around the petals region with the sepals. Okay, now so you can see the sepals petals arrangement. Number 3 is actually one of the tiny leaf which is out of the flower. Generally, we wouldn't put all these leaf and sub-leaf, okay, into the Fourier diagram. We'll just focus on mainly on number 2. All right. All right, now how to construct a Fourier diagram? Let us take an example from here. Okay, now so now if you look at the sepals, let us start with the sepals here. Okay, now the sepals is represented by this, okay, this structure, this drawing. Okay, now so generally it should be at the outer wall. Okay, now so you can see there are 5 sepals here. Okay, now the collective word for sepals is called calyx. Okay, now the next layer, the next word is the petals. So the petals is a collective word, collective term is the corolla. So there are 5 here. Okay, generally we wouldn't represent by the line. Okay, it should be a crescent moon. Okay, very very sharp crescent moon. Okay, kind of shape. Okay, that is the petals. Next, now when we go in the third ring here, which is the stamen. So the stamen is basically represented by this bean-shaped structure. So this is the stamen. And then the last one, the innermost structure, this is the carpal pistil, or maybe the ovary. So this one actually represents the female reproductive organ. Okay, now so in conclusion, the Fourier diagram generally shows these four very important parts, which is from the outer ring is the sepals or calyx, and then the next is the petals, corolla, and then the next is the stamen, or sometimes also known as androsium, and then the last one, which is the ovary, the pistil or the carpel. Okay, now so generally known as the gynosium. All right, so yeah, that's all. Now this is another example. Okay, what is the Fourier diagram of the hibiscus? Okay, now so this is the Fourier diagram of the hibiscus, one example. Okay, now so very clearly, because hibiscus, if you look at it, in this case, the petals are the one that is on the outer ring. Okay, now which is this. Okay, so these are the petals, the outer layer, the outer wall, that is the petals. The inner wall, yeah, you can see a small little wavy or tips here, the sharp tips here. This is actually to represent that this is the sepals. Okay, now, and this is a relative position of the sepals. The sepals is generally found at the base of the flower. Okay, now, and then you can see this little tiny figure 8 structures here, which is attached to the ovary wall. So you can see that there are a lot of the stamens. Okay, so all these are anther, and then all those lines are the filament. So the anthers are attached to the filament, which is connected to the ovary wall. And this is the ovary of the hibiscus flower. So you can see altogether 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There are 10 chambers within the ovary. Okay, so this is one example how to construct the Fourier diagram. Okay, now next, what does the Fourier formula of the hibiscus tell us? Okay, now so actually from this, it means quite a lot. Okay, now so generally we will ignore the first two. These two are actually details, okay, but will be good if we know them. Okay, now so bracteates, flowers, and then the epicalyx. Okay, so this is about the symmetry, whether is it is it a radial symmetry or bisymmetry. Okay, now so these particular symbols represent that it is radial symmetry. Okay, so you can cut at all level and it looks similar. Bisexual, okay, now so bisexual is actually should be these symbols up here. Okay, and next the calyx, okay, 5 sepals, 5 petals, and then the stamens are numerous and filaments are fused. Okay, now and then also G5 is 5 couples, which is fused, and the ovary is superior. Okay, now how we know this? Okay, now how you know whether it is fused or it is free? By looking at the number. If the number there is a bracket, so if you can see a bracket, okay, around the number, that means these are fused. If you find that the number do not have bracket, it is free. Okay, so basically this is how you know whether the structures are free or fused. Okay, similarly, if you look at the gynosium G bracket 5, it also tells you that these 5 couples are fused. Okay, they join together at some point. Okay, superior or inferior, actually the ovary is superior, so generally we put a line, we underline G here to represent that this is a superior ovary. If the ovary is inferior, the align will be on top of the G. Okay, so that is how we know it is superior, inferior. All right, the patterns of the lily family. Okay, now so lily, actually there are quite a number of species. Okay, now so let us, but basically one very clear-cut characteristics is that you look at the number of usually they come in trees. In trees, they have 3 sepals, 3 petals. The pistil with a 3-part stigma. All right, so even the pistil also come in 3 parts. The stamens, there are 6. Okay, there are 6 stamens. Okay, now so how you draw diagram? So this is how it looks like. The floral diagram of the lily flower. So you can see that there are on the outer wall there are 3 uh, sepals, and then on the inner wall there are 3 petals. And you can see that the stamens is actually joined to each of these um, either sepals or petals. Okay, sometimes we call them tepals, T-E-P-A-L. All right, tepals. If we cannot differentiate them whether they are sepals or petals. Okay, now the innermost structure is the ovary. Okay, now and you can see that this is the particular ovary, and if you look in details, the diagram on the left show you there are 3 locules. Okay, 3 locules that make up the ovary. That means they make up of 3 compartments, okay, to forms the ovary. And each of these locules carry 2 ovules. So that means in the future, at least 2 seeds will be formed within each of these locules. Alright, now so this is the floral formula. Alright, now so in this special case, the lily were petals because we can't differentiate whether the petals from the sepals. So usually we put 3 plus 3. The 3 plus 3 also means that they come in different layers. In terms of the wall, 3 are on the outer ring and 3 are on the inner ring. Okay, so we call this the outer wall, inner wall. Similarly, the androsium, the stamens are also arranged similarly because they are attached to the petals or sepals. Now you can tell that the gynosium, the ovary is superior because the line is under the G. So this is a superior ovary, and there are 3 fused, the ovary, there are 3 chambers that are fused together. All right.